Welcome back to Water Polo Wednesday. This is segment 4 of our 5-part conference breakdown week. In this episode, we are zeroing in on the WCC, the top-rated RPI conference in America. UOP rolled to an undefeated conference season, sustained only a single loss to the juggernaut that is Fordham coming out of the Mid-Atlantic. UOP earned the only first-round bye in the conference, which allows them to rest up, scout their opponent, and enjoy the home crowd on Friday. And with the WCC tournament being held at UOP, all stars are aligning for them. But if there's anything we can count on in this conference, it's chaos. Let's dive into the WCC Conference Championship breakdown on this episode of Water Polo Wednesday.
And welcome back to Water Polo Wednesday with Wes and Clay.
I'm Wes.
I'm Clay, and this is the 4th of 5 episodes this week going into conference championships. Wes, this conference is considered the strongest conference in America. How is this going to shake out, and what do we need to know going into it?
Yeah, so this conference has been awesome. It's super interesting. Despite LMU and Air Force struggling as they have, CBU has had a banner year. San Jose State has been very good. Pepperdine has been outstanding. Pacific has been extremely good this year. CBU has beat UCI, LMU, Santa Clara, Harvard. Pacific beat everyone. Only one loss on the year. That loss coming to the number 2 team in the nation, Fordham. Pep beat Cal, Santa Barbara twice, Long Beach, and San Jose State. San Jose State beat Harvard, Navy, Brown, Davis, Santa Barbara. Like, this group of 4 is really good.
It's incredible. And also, why UOP is so highly ranked on RPI, right?
That's correct, because this conference is so deep, and these teams win a lot of games.
Yeah, love this so much. This season just continues to provide so much entertainment. Talk to us about the favorites, UOP, and who could upset them.
I'd love to, Clay. Thank you for asking. First off, here's how the bracket sets up for the WCC. Let me go into my favorite little bracket builder, and we'll get started with this. As you know, I prefer to build my own brackets because it's easier this way. And so we've got Santa Clara and Cal Baptist. Pacific earning the bye. Remember, only one team gets a bye in this conference. Okay. And Pacific, I believe they're going to make the finals. I'm not convinced they're going to win the whole thing, their whole conference yet. Okay. But I do believe they're going to make through.
Yeah. One step at a time.
And so I do have Cal Baptist winning this game, though Santa Clara has been very good this year. I think that game is a 1-goal game, and I think it comes down to the last possession. All right. San Jose State, Air Force, not their year this year. Loyola, it's such a sad season for Loyola. Their 2 key contributors got hurt. They're done for the season. Okay. And this is kind of what the semifinals look like right here. And I think this is you start looking at these teams, you're like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? Yeah. And these are very good teams. I really like what Pepperdine has done this year. I love the makeup of the roster. And like all mid-major teams, they're thinner at some positions, which creates uncertainty in their games. And when, their top 9, 10 players aren't in the pool, Pacific is a fully loaded veteran team. Very veteran-laden. We're well documented in being big fans of Pacific and noticing how good they are. Their roster, led by who I think is the best all-around player in the NC2A in Mihailo Vukovic. Royal de Souza, Jeremy Cote are Olympic hopefuls from Canada in their final years of eligibility. De Souza is like 25 years old. Cote is 22. They got a lot of graduate students and seniors, and you see it in their play. Now, they've also got a guy named Stefan Vavic, who's a very smart driver, knows when and where to drive. I'm sure there were plenty of those discussions around his dinner table growing up. And, then you've got Gil Gavishi, a national team player for Israel, playing in Maccabi games in 2025 for Israel. Gil Gavishi was in Montenegro training a couple summers ago when we were there with LA Athletic Club. This team has a lot of talents and a lot of intelligence, and maybe the smartest overall team in the country in terms of water polo IQ, because they're just so experienced. And Coach Graham has done an excellent job timing this run, building this roster. In all reality, this is their conference championship to lose. It's not to say they're going to win it. They only lost 1 game all year, none of which came in conference play.
Yeah, we've seen UOP make runs like this before. Graham talked about every other year aside from COVID year. Now, in 2019, they had another elite team, but didn't win their conference. Are they at risk of that happening this year?
Absolutely. Yeah, as sad as that is, yeah, they are. Because this conference is so good, they can't sleep on any of these teams. All these teams believe they can win. You got to play the game. Is this Pacific team elite? Absolutely. So was the 2019 team. Okay. Conference championships are weird sometimes. Okay. UCLA hasn't won an MPSF championship in a few years, which shocks people because they make the NC2A tournament nearly every year. Pacific can be beat. And candidly, I think either San Jose State or Pepperdine can beat them if they're very efficient in their approach. Pep has the outside shooting that can give UOP problems. And San Jose State has that big center in Bensei Sabo that's going to make life pretty miserable for Mihailo Vukovic. Pep also has a couple of good centers. Nobody at quite the level that Bensei Sabo's at. But, I mean, they're good enough to kind of force a zone, force a drop, and go at Mihailo.
Yeah, they're producing a bit. Talk to us about that. We know not both of these teams will make the finals. So who do you think challenges UOP between the two?
Well, I think Pepperdine beat San Jose State, and I think they're a more complete team. And while they don't have a Bensei Sabo on their team in the middle, Milo Joseph does a really good job. If Pep can work at the perimeter and force UOP to come off their gaps, meaning come out away from center to get to some of those attackers, Pep can cause some serious havoc. And candidly, if I were to pinpoint one player that's going to be a difference maker for them on the perimeter, it's Christian Hosea.
Yep.
If this guy gets loose, he can get D'Souza in some foul trouble, force that drop to come out to him with some good early drives or shots. UOP will have to adjust, and then you get into their depth earlier. Hosea is just so tough to guard and play against, man. And it's so fun to watch him because you cannot take your eyes off him. He and Chase McFarland and Luca Provenciani are the three best perimeter 1-2 side drivers in the country. They're pure drivers. They create space. All three of them are great shooters. They cause problems for defenses. I love to see it because none of those guys are super big dudes.
Yeah, if you don't have that centerpiece on offense in particular, you got to make up for it somewhere else, right? If they can come on and press you a little bit more, you need that movement. I think Christian is going to give that to him. And then once they get that spacing, guys like Chapo can pick him off from up top. And even Carcarey has got a cannon on him.
That's right.
So going back to UOP, what do they need to focus on to take down Pepperdine and make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, look, UOP has the opportunity here to run the table and have what a great season. They have to stay within themselves. And what I mean by that is don't try and force too much. They have to remain very patient. If they get into foul trouble, they can't get frustrated because Pepperdine is going to attack them early and often. And if UOP decides to start forcing shots early because they're frustrated about a call or they're, playing, maybe having to bench Vukovic with the foul or two early on, and they start burning possessions by, bad shots, early shots, giving away possessions, they'll get into some trouble because Pep can score goals with their shooters. I mean, Pep has some players, and they got some ballers. They got some dogs, as the kids say. They got some guys who can really put the ball away from a lot of different places. UOP has the talent, no question. I think they're a top 3 team in the country right now with UCLA at 1 and Fordham at 2. They just have to play their game, stay composed, not lose their head. To me, that's the sign of a really mature team, right? Is when you can face adversity and rise above it. And I believe that that's what they're going to have to do because it's not going to be a walk in the park with these teams.
Yeah. Talking about strategies, winning your conference is also one way to get into the NC2A tournament. So what happens if UOP loses, doesn't win the championship, right? Do they still make it to the NC2A tournament?
100%. They absolutely do. They're the number 2 RPI team in the country. They play in the toughest conference, top to bottom in the country. They would absolutely make it. Where they get seeded, probably not as high as if they won their conference. The thing here is this. If UOP does not win their conference tournament, and they still make the NCAA tournament, that's not good news for USC. USC, assuming they don't win the MPSF, would be out if UOP doesn't win the conference tournament.
So if UOP does not win the WCC tournament, and USC does not win the MPSF, then USC is likely or certainly out. of NCAA.
Yeah, they would be out just based on looking at historicals. I went back a number of years, looked at the criteria, looked at the RPI, looked at who got in, conference champions, these types of things. I've got a pretty good beat on this. USC would be out, assuming they don't win the tournament. And if USC does win the tournament, then you're looking at Stanford being out because UOP is ranked ahead of them.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's crazy to think that way, but this is good for water polo. These types of uncertain situations drives fandom. It drives excitement. Remember, they don't use the coaches poll. That has zero bearing on anything at all. Frankly, it's perfunctory. It's so people can see it. But if UOP loses, I believe that they are still in. So would the WCC champion. So it could be Pepperdine, San Jose State, could even be CBU, which, I think Pepperdine is the team that has the best shot despite they got beat up by UOP this last week. In their final conference play. But look, that's one game. And as we've talked about, if it's just one game, anybody can win it. And I'm sure you love that, Clay. I'm sure you love that optimism and that opportunity. That's all you can really ask for as an athlete, right? Absolutely. Is that opportunity to come out and play.
Yeah, I'd love to see the boys get back to the NCAA tournament. Anyways, talk about Pepperdine, and their team. We've got head coach Merrill Moses, center defender Jon Carcarey, and senior attacker Christian Hosea coming up next right after this.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We are so excited to have this next group of guests with us. We've got Jon Carcarey, Merrill Moses, Christian Hosea. It's great to see you guys again. Thank you for taking the time to be on the show in such a busy, kind of chaotic, stressful week.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've loved watching you guys compete this year. Love that your games are available online. It's been a really interesting year for you. You've dealt with quite a few injuries throughout the course of this year. I think the first obvious question, is, are you guys healthy heading into the WCC tournament?
Yeah, no, I think we've definitely had some injuries throughout the year, but our goal is to be the best at the end of the year, and our training staff has done a great job. We have one of the best trainers in the industry, and I'm happy to say that we are almost 100% healthy, and I believe we'll be 100% healthy come tournament time at the end of this week.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Jon, Christian, any thoughts?
No, I just think that we're going to be a really good team towards the end of the season here. We are getting back a couple of the pieces that were, kind of struggling with injury. I know Jon a little bit had a couple little stints of injury here, Chase Wilson. But, everyone's coming back together, and I think it's going to turn out really good towards the end of the year. So, yeah.
Love that. Great. Here, sorry, just one second.
You guys had a tough game. Way to go, Clay. You guys had a tough game against UOP a few days back.
That's a great
guys.
It's just getting a little hot in here. Anyway.
Wow. Wow.
So you guys had a tough game. You guys had a tough game against UOP the past couple of days. So that puts you guys second in the WCC heading into the tournament with a likely meeting against San Jose State in the semifinal. Talk to us about how you're preparing this week for that semifinal and final, assuming you get there.
I'm going to tell you, and I'll let the guys talk after, is we're going step by step, and we're not overlooking anyone. Our conference is a very competitive conference, and to get anywhere, you have to get through your first game. And so our whole focus right now is LMU, which we play Friday at 10 a.m. Obviously, I think that's where teams get in trouble is they look to the future. And that's something that we are definitely not doing. And so our whole focus right now is focusing on LMU Friday at 10.
Love it.
Yeah, like Merrill said, step by step, every team is good this year, 1 through 20, or however many people, everyone's so good. So pretty much I think we're just going to have a good time, just work together, and it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, just one game at a time. We're going to get there, and step by step, yeah, like other guys said. And right now it's LMU that we're focused on.
Yeah, I love it. And Clay, I'm not surprised. Shocked, but not surprised. Merrill, this is your first season as a head coach, the sole head coach. Merrill, it is your show. it's a little different than it's been in the past, right? And what challenges have you had this year? And congratulations, first off, on getting the full-time head coaching job. You've certainly been there long enough. You certainly earned it. What have you noticed this first year as a head coach? What challenges have you had? Maybe what have you enjoyed most about it?
Coaching is, one thing that I've always wanted to do. And I just enjoy the relationships I have with these guys. I consider them all like family. I always tell them, and I tell even recruits, you guys saw one of my daughters before we went live. I have 3 daughters and 28 sons. And so I think the relationships is something that I enjoy tremendously. I don't think I've had any additional challenges. I just say that obviously a lot of pressure, but I enjoy pressure. Ultimately how we do, if we win, lose, if we're successful or if we fail, bottom line is it comes down to the head coach. But I will say, I think we have one of the strongest coaching staffs in the country with Coach Tragitt, Spencer Hamby, who I added, and Coach Schroeder still involved in the program. So I think, it's not just my show by no means. I think all of us have our part in our success for sure. And that's how I'm always going to coach is, our coaching staff is going to be a unit. And I think we have a very good coaching staff, one of the best in the country.
It's awesome. Now, you touched on it a little bit. You got 28 sons, but next year you're only going to have 24. New roster limits and changes in the NC2A are going to, cause some changes in how things go. What are you looking for in new recruits? I think we get a lot of questions around can you ask coaches about what they want in recruits? And how much is that transfer portal going to play into building your roster each year? Is that a strategy you're going to look into? I know there's a couple on your roster already from the transfer portal. Talk to us about, the younger freshmen versus, the transfer portal approach.
Yeah, it's an interesting time in NC2As and definitely water polo. We've addressed it with our team this summer once we heard that there was going to be a roster moved down to 24, and all of our current players know that. And I do think the 2025 class got hit kind of hard with this because obviously no one really knew this was coming per se. There was, hearsay, but now it is coming. And I think recruiting wise, you have to recruit athletes that are ready to go because you have a lower amount on your roster and people are going to have to be ready to play. With the transfer portal, I'm intrigued to see how much that will affect water polo. I think that's going to affect other sports more. I think the transfer portal was used mainly for the COVID years, which goes away. I do think there'll be some people that are transferring here and there, but it's very rare in water polo. It's if someone's not happy, but it can happen. But I think for the most part, recruiting, it's not going to be that many people that you're going to recruit as projects per se. And I'm intrigued how some programs might not utilize redshirting as much because you only have 24 on the roster.
Yeah, great point. Jon, you've been a solid center defender, one of the better scoring center defenders in the country, which is an extremely valuable asset to have on a team. Talk to us about your growth this year and where do you think you've made the most progress?
So, yeah, obviously guard is definitely a unique position. A lot of times you're driving through 2-2, but I've been fortunate enough to be able to kind of work the zone as well and kind of be there to work with my teammates in the zone. And, I think my biggest jump this year is the defensive part. Like last year, I wasn't really used to guard, and especially guarding like college water polo. Like that's a big jump from high school, and it's a lot bigger of guys. So it's definitely a different thing. But after getting a year under my belt, I think lately, at least, I've been very comfortable guarding and getting around and fronting, and then also being able to communicate and kind of take control of the defense there.
Communication's
I love
key.
it. Yeah, communication's so key. You love to get great communication out of that back end defense with your goalie and center defender. Christian, my man, I'd love to see a good San Clemente High School guy coming through, a Logan Powell product, who was my classmate at San Clemente. And you are, in my mind, quite frankly, not to blow your ego up too much, but I think you're the best 1-2 side driver in the United States. You had 5 goals against Stanford. You drew 2 exclusions. You cause immense problems for teams. You play a game that, frankly, most guys are not willing to play, which is a lot of contact, a lot of movement, and you draw a million kickouts because of it. And then you finish really well to boot, which is incredible. This is your last season in college. This will, potentially last couple of weeks here of college water polo. Talk to us about what that means to you and how maybe this year is different for you guys than other years with the team you've got and you've had such a great year.
Yeah. This team, I feel like we're so much closer than maybe we had been in years past. I just really think that this year's team, we just meshed like so much better. We're all friends outside of the pool. We all hang out all the time. So the team chemistry is definitely there. In terms of myself, I love to drive. Like, driving is my thing. I love to create the contact. I watch a lot of, film on these guys that are kind of, my same stature. And, I've learned a lot of things from like people like Felipe Perone, like Francisco de Fulvio, like all these dudes. I love watching these dudes because they're so like dynamic in the way that they move. And, the way that they shoot. Because, water polo is such like an interesting sport. I don't think you have to be, the tallest or, the biggest to make an impact on the game. So I think that's something that I kind of pride myself in. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Absolutely. You guys have done so well in conference this year, compiling a 5-1 record and finishing second in the toughest conference in America, as we said before. Talk to us about what you've learned this season going through that and how you're going to apply that to the tournament. Christian, going back to you.
It's a tough question. Do you think you could maybe rephrase that? Sorry, I'm a little bit stuck.
I guess phrased another way. Through conference, you've had some success. 1 loss to UOP. Through that period of time, could you pinpoint? I'm sure there's a lot of growth to be had over the course of a season in conference play. Is there one thing I guess that stands out the most for the Pepperdine unit that they really need to focus on to come out on top in this conference championship?
Oh yeah, 100% is defense. 100% is defense. Our entire team is so talented in the scoring aspect. I think we've taken a big jump in terms of our defense. We've really started to get on the same page. But like I said earlier, it could always be better. We're all such talented shooters. Just going back to defense is like probably the main number one thing I'd say.
Yeah, defense wins championships is the common phrase. So, what is it going to take? Look, it's not lost on us that UOP is a very good team. You had a tough game against them this past week. What's it going to take for you guys to beat UOP? Any strategy or approach you want to share with us? Merrill, feel free to give us your game plan.
I think, in all honesty, to beat any team, we have to have strong defense. Bottom line is UOP's super talented, but every team in our conference is talented. And again, we have to get to them. But I can talk to you about our UOP game since I know you guys want to hear about it. I definitely don't think we played a good game at all. I think our team would admit that. I think we played it probably our worst game of the season. And we lost them by 6. So, we've already analyzed film, seen what we did wrong. And if we do see them again, we know the areas that we have to fix. But again, going against LMU, right? We had a close game with them. We went up on them, and then they came back and made it a tight game. So I think if anything we've learned throughout the season is, which I think everyone's learned throughout this season is, Jon hit it on the head, is 1 through 20 can win it any day. So you have to bring your A game no matter what, because there's a lot of parity in water polo this year, and I think it's great for the sport. And if you fall asleep on anyone, they're going to take advantage of you, and you could end up with losing that game. So I think that is one thing. Everyone talks about our win versus Cal. It was a great win, 21-20, high scoring affair. We've had a lot of high scoring affairs. Our team can score goals. We have to hold teams to lower digits. I think the 1-digit game is very far and few between, where you have a 9-8 game or an 8-7 game like our NC2A championship. But I think if we hold the team to 11, 12 goals, we should be winning that game. So I think we have enough offensive firepower. Obviously, I'd love it if we held them to less, but it just depends on how the game is called also. For example, the game this weekend against UOP, both teams only had 5 ejections. So that
I saw that. Shocking, right? And I did a game of San Diego and Stanford a week ago, and there was 32.
Exactly. So it just depends how it's called for the score. But even if there's a lot of ejections, we have to have good 5-man and focus on our defense, and good things will happen. We're going to be able to score the ball.
Yeah,
I love it.
Absolutely. Every team, we ask this question always. A lot of teams have a similar answer, but some teams surprise us. But we want to hear it from you guys. Is there a specific metric or stat that you guys really focus on, really target on either offense, defense, man up, man down, that you really hinge your game upon to say, if we could hang our success on this stat, this is going to determine our success? John, what would you say that would be?
Personally, the coaches are always preaching no natural goals out of center and no counter goals. And that's something like as a guard, like if I allow a natural, I know I'm going to hear it from the coaches. That's something we focus on a lot. And I think if we can keep another team to no natural goals out of center and no counter goals, we're going to do really well, and we're going to be set up for success.
Love that. Christian, anything different?
I'd say 6-on-5. We definitely do a lot of 6-on-5 in our practices. Try to make a big emphasis on defensive rotations, passing the ball around, just kind of being clean with it, trying to make crisp passes, the whole 9. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'd say they hit it on the head. Is 6-on-5, 5-on-6 percentages, no naturals out of center, no counter goals, and a big one is no backcourt kickouts for no reason. Taking those bad kickouts for no reason. For example, I told you we played probably one of our worst games this last Saturday. We had 4 naturals out of set. And,
against you, I'm assuming.
Against us. Yes. And another stat we look at is shot blocks, and we had 0 shot blocks, which is hard to do. Again, I think in sports you're going to have one of those games, and I'm happy we had it this last weekend, and we could learn from it and fix the things so we can have a successful weekend this weekend, championship weekend.
For sure. Sometimes those losses can be real gifts. Just an opportunity to learn and grow and get it off your chest, right? Those can be nerve-wracking. Sometimes it's a nerve-wracking game, and you'll just be a totally different team the next time you come out, and so will they. And so good on you to take the kind of more constructive approach and say, hey, here's how we're going to get better. We love the phrase in our house, better, never best. And I think that's awesome that you guys have kind of embraced that and embodied that as you go forward. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you guys, as Clayton has exemplified, Pepperdine holds a special place for us. It's a special opportunity for us to all be able to get together and kind of learn from you. And we very much appreciate that. We like to open it up now for you. Any comments or tidbits you'd like to leave us with? The studio's yours. Whatever you'd like to say, any shout outs, we'd love to hear it.
I'll let the guys go first and I'll finish.
My mom's definitely watching this. Hey, Mom.
Let's go.
I love you.
Let's go.
It's awesome.
That's about the only one I got. Yeah.
All right.
Just go Waves and watch us dominate this weekend.
Love it.
I like that, John. Yeah. No, thank you guys for having us. The one thing I'd say is, our sport's getting more popular. It's great that you can watch it on ESPN Plus. So if you do get a chance, watch the tournament this weekend. I think it's going to be a great weekend of water polo. I think we have a special team. A lot of people are counting us out, but we believe in each other. And I think we are going to surprise some people if they are counting us out, because I think we have an extremely strong team that definitely is capable of winning the whole thing. But I think any team in our conference can win the whole thing. So it should be some great water polo for all you spectators. And again, thanks for taking the time to have us, and appreciate all the Pepperdine alumni that are watching and following, and go Waves.
Go Waves.
Anyways, thanks again, guys.
Well, that was refreshing. Feels like I'm back in Malibu. Wes, do you want to take us back to the bracket visual?
Is that what it takes to get you back in Malibu? Sure, I'm happy to.
much.
So, as we talked about before, we got Pacific and Cal Baptist in this semifinal. I do think Pacific is too much. It's at home. There's going to be 1,500 to 2,000 screaming fans at that stadium. I like Pepperdine in this. I just their movement and outside shooting is just a bit better. I know, look, San Jose State's got a great goalie, but I do like Pepperdine here. And unfortunately for Pep, and I'm sorry about this, Clay, I do have Pacific taking this and making the NC2A tournament. If nothing else, the MPSF team should be very happy with this result if this in fact is what ends up happening.
Great. We'll see, won't we? Well, that concludes this episode of Water Polo Wednesdays. And do we have more?
We've got one more coming up tomorrow night, the MPSF conference. And as a reminder, everybody, for those of you who would like to watch the MPSF conference, we'll preview that tomorrow night. It'll be streamed on overnight. The MPSF conference will be streamed on overnight. I'll be doing the bulk of the commentating. Thank you for that. And we will hopefully see you there. Have a good night, everybody.